Imagine this. You ditch your toxic ex to start over in secret, only to discover you have god-tier magic. While she's desperately hunting you down, you're too busy becoming unstoppable. Now let's get to the story.
Finn walks into a barber shop in Frontier City, Yugha notes, and asks for a haircut and dye. The barber, taken aback by how rare and beautiful Finn's hair is, questions why he'd want to change it. Finn explains it's because of certain circumstances. Intrigued, the barber prompts him to share the story, and Finn begins recounting what led him there. It all started with his girlfriend Alphine, his childhood friend and one of only 3 sword masters in the entire kingdom. She's a legendary swordswoman, widely admired for her unmatched skill and beauty. People even call her the flawless sword goddess. But Finn's relationship with her has become anything but perfect. During a training session, Alphine scolds Finn, frustrated by his inability to perform a basic sword swing. She lashes out, asking why he can't grasp something so simple. Finn admits that he's never really understood her way of teaching. That only angers her more. She accuses him of being hopeless and insists that he should just obey her since she's going out of her way to help him. Finn reflects on how different she used to be. They grew up together in the same village, and she wasn't like this before. Things started changing after she received the Sword Master title. Since then, she's taken out her work stress on him, and when she doesn't vent, she resorts to biting her nails. But everything changed that day. Finn, though nervous, finally tells her he's done. He quits, both as her boyfriend and her training partner. Alphine is visibly shaken. Meanwhile, Finn feels like a weight has been lifted. For the first time in ages, he feels like himself again. His confidence, long buried under her constant criticisms, begins to resurface. Alphine, still processing, argues that he's being irrational. She insists he can't survive as an adventurer on his own. Stressed, she starts biting her nails again. But Finn remains firm. He's not backing down like he always used to. He tells her he's already returned everything she gave him, gear, money, all of it. It's waiting at the mansion she recently bought. Stunned, Alphine demands to know if Finn really believes he can just walk away from her. Finn tells Alphine he's leaving her for real this time. He's starting over as an adventurer here on the frontier. To make it clear, he even returns the commemorative sword they once exchanged when they first became adventurers. He asks if she isn't relieved now that she's finally rid of her so-called useless, good-for-nothing boyfriend. With that, he thanks her for everything and says it's time for them to walk their own paths. Alphine panics. She tells him to wait, apologizing for being too harsh recently, insisting he shouldn't take her words seriously. But Finn doesn't stop. He keeps walking and doesn't look back. Back at the barber shop, the barber responds sympathetically. Finn admits he's changing his appearance so he won't be recognized, but even so, he still feels a little sorry for Alphine. Once the makeover is done, the barber tells him to check the mirror. Finn looks and barely recognizes himself. His once rare hair is now dyed a deep red. He stares in surprise. The barber grins and says just as expected, Finn looks incredibly handsome now. He jokes that the women in the city are going to start talking. Then he hands Finn a pair of magical lenses. Made from demon-derived materials, they let him change the color of his eyes, perfect for disguises. Finn puts them on and checks the mirror again. With this new look, he thinks, even if he ran into Alphine, she probably wouldn't recognize him. When the barber asks his name, Finn almost gives his real one but decides against it. From now on, he's Flint. The barber nods, says it's a good name, and introduces himself as Lauren, a little-known barber in the city. They shake hands, pleased to meet each other. Flint steps out into the street and starts looking for the Adventurers Guild. As he walks, he notices girls and women turning to look at him, whispering. He starts wondering if his new red hair is too flashy, or if they're laughing at him. Eventually, he reaches the guild building, surprised at how large it is. Inside, he's greeted by a warm and professional receptionist named Rebecca. She asks what she can help him with, and whether he's here to register as a new adventurer. She says they can start the paperwork immediately. But Flint notices something strange. The place feels unusually quiet and empty, especially compared to the guild back at the royal capital. Rebecca returns with the necessary documents and begins explaining how things work. She tells Flint that the guild uses an emblem system to represent adventurer ranks, divided into 5 stages: iron, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Adventurers are also classified into 3 categories: hunters, who subdue monsters; searchers, who collect rare plants and minerals; and excavators, who explore ancient ruins. These roles can shift based on the types of requests completed. Flint fills out the form using his new identity, and Rebecca uses a magical tool to check for any criminal record. The scan comes up clean. With all formalities complete, she officially welcomes him to the Adventurer Guild and hands him his guild insignia. She explains that it's proof of membership and should be worn visibly. If he ever runs into trouble, he can reach out to the guild anytime. Then Rebecca remembers something else. The guild recently started offering free magic power measurement for new registrants. She shows him a crystal orb and asks if he'd like to try it. That reminds Flint of Alfine. Back when they were together, they never measured their magic power. She always insisted that for a true swordsman, swordplay was what mattered most. But now, he figures there's no harm in it. It's free, after all. He agrees to give it a try. Rebecca tells him to place his hand on the orb. The orb should glow in different colors depending on the level of latent magic power. But the moment Flint touches it, the crystal shatters. He quickly asks if he should pay for the damage, but Rebecca shakes her head and says it must have been defective. She brings another one, but again, as soon as he places his hand on it, it breaks into pieces. Embarrassed, Flint apologizes again. Rebecca stares at the shards, stunned. She tells him that there's only one person in all of Yughanotes known to have magic power strong enough to break those orbs, Noelia Henestrosa, also known as the Infinite Mage. The other adventurers nearby start murmuring, wondering if this mysterious newcomer has magic comparable to Noelia's. Finn quickly tries to downplay what just happened. He tells Rebecca the broken orbs must have been defective and nothing more. But Rebecca, still rattled, says she'll call the guild master to get a precise reading. Finn insists there's no need. He already knows he has magic power, and he'd rather not make a big deal out of it. As he starts walking toward the exit, he asks her to just forget about it. But before he can leave, someone calls out to him from behind. He turns, and everyone around him reacts with shock. Even Rebecca freezes and whispers the name, Noelia. Finn realizes immediately, this must be the other person who's known to break the crystal. He didn't expect her to be so young. He notices the platinum-ranked emblem on her chest, meaning her abilities have been formally recognized by the guild. Noelia steps forward and tells him she's been watching him since he arrived. She's sensed a huge amount of magic power and proposes a different kind of test, magic power synchronization. Instead of a full inspection, she wants to directly measure his power through contact. Finn hesitates, admitting he's not sure what that even is. Noelia looks stunned and asks if he seriously doesn't know. Seeing her reaction, he wonders if he said something weird. She explains, magic power synchronization is when 2 mages clap hands to measure and enhance each other's magic. It's something mages do routinely to gauge compatibility and potential. She reassures him it's just like touching the crystal orb, nothing too intense. It sounds simple enough, so Finn agrees to try it. Around them, the guild members are shocked. Noelia offering to synchronize with someone herself is unheard of. They whisper that an average mage would bleed out just by doing that. Rebecca even warns Noelia, reminding her that her father strictly forbade her from doing any magic synchronization. But Noelia brushes it off and tells her not to worry. As they start the synchronization, Finn feels a strange sensation, as if something's being drawn out of his body through his palms. Still, it doesn't seem nearly as intense as everyone made it sound. Meanwhile, Noelia's face starts to pale. She realizes Finn's magic power isn't just overwhelming, it's beyond her own, and it's still flowing steadily into her. Everyone watches in disbelief. Noelia's expression almost never changes, but now she's visibly strained. The guild members are stunned, wondering who this guy even is. Finn, meanwhile, starts feeling self-conscious from all the stares. He doesn't like the attention and starts to suspect he's doing something wrong. At that moment, Rebecca urgently tells him that things are getting dangerous. Hearing that, Finn immediately lets go and steps back, saying he didn't mean to cause a scene. But when he turns around, he realizes the entire guild hall has emptied out. Everyone's fled, not wanting to get caught up in whatever mess might follow. Noelia, she says, is the daughter of Lloyd Henestrosa, the ruler of this city. Finn panics. He has no idea why this is happening and tries to convince himself that it was just an accident. At the same time, Alphine finds herself lost in one of her most vivid memories with Finn, the day they fought a massive demonic dragon together. The battle had started with the dragon unleashing a torrent of flames. Finn barely avoided it, sprinting out of the blast zone. Alphine shouted after him, asking if he planned to get burned alive and telling him to move faster. Finn, catching his breath, snapped back that he was already on it. The dragon towered before them, a terrifying creature responsible for countless deaths, its flames, claws, and fangs tearing through entire armies. As they faced off against it, Alphine warned Finn that if he messed up again, she'd crank up his training. But before either of them could make another move, the dragon whipped its massive tail toward Alphine. Finn shouted a warning. She dodged the brunt of the blow, but the impact still sent her flying. Seeing her thrown like that, Finn panicked. He realized he needed to distract the dragon fast. He dashed in, sword ready, and landed a hit, but it did nothing. The blade didn't even scratch its hide. The dragon responded with a brutal claw swipe, and Finn struggled to block it, barely holding his ground. Alphine picked herself up and forced herself to calm down. She told herself that this time, she'd bring the beast down. Finn called out again. He couldn't keep it back much longer. Alphine told him to stay focused, saying he'd never win if he gave up. She unsheathed another sword, ready to strike. Finn groaned, saying that was the last thing he wanted to hear. He tried to warn her that it was already too late, but before he could finish, he got hit. The dragon landed a devastating blow, leaving him injured and unsteady. Despite that, Alphine didn't break. She told him to hold on just a little longer. If she could focus her attack, they'd win, like always. But Finn, drained and barely standing, said he couldn't keep it up. Then Alphine smiled and apologized for the wait. Finn watched in disbelief as she charged the dragon head-on. He shouted after her, calling her crazy and saying she couldn't do it alone. But Alphine wasn't stopping. She sprinted straight up the dragon's massive frame, stabbed one sword into its nose, and stood atop the hilt. Then she pointed her second sword and drove it into the creature's eye with a precise, powerful strike. Finn was stunned. She followed with one final, devastating blow. With that, the dragon let out a final roar and collapsed. Breathing hard, Alphine let out a sigh. She said it was finally over, and admitted that even her sword had worn down fighting that monster. She slumped under a nearby tree, saying the battle had been exhausting, and asked Finn to take care of the rest. Later, the two of them high-fived, proud of what they'd accomplished together. It was one of their best moments, one she still holds onto. Back at her mansion, Alphine grows increasingly irritated. She turns on her bed restless, biting her nails, fuming about Finn's decision to leave. She mutters that ever since he left her side to live independently, he's become arrogant and full of himself. The frustration is overwhelming. She thinks back to the time they fought the demon dragon together, how she believed they shared mutual trust and affection. Yet now, he's cast everything aside, not just her, but also the high-grade equipment she gave him, the money she provided for a comfortable life, and even the countless gifts she'd picked out for him. Most painful of all, he left behind the commemorative sword they exchanged when they first became adventurers. Still gnawing at her nails, Alphine struggles to understand what Finn was so dissatisfied with. They had been together for years. Suddenly, in a burst of frustration, she kicks a nearby table. The noise draws the attention of her butler, Vigo, who enters the room and asks if something's wrong. Alphine, startled, quickly covers up her mood. She tells him everything's fine and says she's just changing into her loungewear. As he steps out, she silently curses herself for thinking about Finn again. Normally, he would have picked up on her mood and kept others from walking in at the wrong time. She clenches her fists, trying to shake off the irritation. Then she asks Vigo if the Adventurers Guild has started searching for Finn in the places he might have gone. Vigo reports that the guild has commissioned several adventurers to investigate, but so far, Finn's trail has vanished. It's clear, he doesn't want to be found. That news hits her harder than expected. Alphine clenches her jaw, unable to hide her distress. Vigo adds that Finn never told anyone, not even his closest acquaintances, where he was heading. He disappeared without a word. Trying to maintain her composure, Alphine tells Vigo it's nothing, but internally she's tense. The thought of people believing she's been abandoned eats away at her pride. She thanks Vigo for the update, then instructs him to extend the search to neighboring towns. But she gives a clear warning: nobody is to know that Finn ran away or that she's the one looking for him. Before Vigo leaves, Alphine tells him it doesn't matter how much money it takes, he must find Finn. Vigo nods in understanding and exits the room. Left alone, Alphine collapses onto her bed, exasperated. Despite all her efforts, she still hasn't found him. She grumbles that if she could search for him herself, she'd track him down instantly. But as a knight, she's tied up with other responsibilities. Frustrated, she mutters that none of this would have happened if Finn had just stayed obedient. She imagines him kneeling before her, begging for forgiveness. Meanwhile, in the city, Finn suddenly sneezes loudly. Rebecca, nearby, asks if he's caught a cold. He replies that it just felt like a chill. Trying to move on, he tells her he's there to claim the reward for a quest he completed the previous day. Rebecca confirms and processes it, but as Finn waits, he suddenly senses something. He turns around, alert. Rebecca notices and asks if something's wrong. Finn brushes it off, saying it's probably nothing, just a weird feeling like he's being watched. Not quite killing intent, but still enough to make his back tingle. Rebecca hands him his reward and comments that he seems like a seasoned adventurer. He always picks just the right quests for good earnings. Finn freezes for a moment. Internally, he panics. He used to be a platinum-ranked adventurer, but after changing his appearance, he ditched the emblem to start over anonymously. Comments like that make him worry someone might figure it out. To deflect suspicion, he casually says he's been getting tips from a senior adventurer staying at his inn. Rebecca praises the approach, calling it efficient, and says he's quite sharp. Finn quickly shifts the topic, pointing to Noelia and asking Rebecca to do something about her. He explains that since the day she fainted during their magic synchronization, she's been watching him nonstop. She even followed him to his inn the previous night, and stayed in the room next to his. Finn mutters that it feels like living with a girl before marriage. Rebecca, smiling, shoots down his request immediately. Finn insists there must be something they can do, but she repeats that it's still impossible. She explains that Noelia has never been outmatched in magic synchronization, until Finn. She's been hailed as the unrivaled master of magic in all of Yughan Notes. Plus, there's a direct order from the Count himself: ignore whatever his daughter does. That means the guild has no authority to stop her. Finn groans and accepts that if Noelia is just observing him without interfering, maybe he shouldn't be too worried. He leans in and quietly asks if Rebecca could speak to her for him. He figures she might have better luck persuading her as a woman. But Rebecca immediately rejects the idea again. Finn recalls that she told him to reach out if he ever needed help, yet here he is. Rebecca calmly explains that as long as he continues to possess more magic power than Noelia, she'll keep following him, at least until she loses interest. Finn lets out a frustrated sigh. At this rate, he thinks it's going to feel just like the old days, living with Alphine in that suffocating little house. Out in the forest, Finn battles a pack of mud golems. He's already taken down a few, but more keep popping up, surrounding him. It's starting to get annoying. Realizing it's better to finish them all at once, he charges in. With rapid speed and precise strikes, he slices through the golems one by one, aiming straight for their heads. His movements are sharp, efficient, and after a relentless effort, he manages to subdue every last one of them. Panting from exhaustion, Finn hopes that's the last wave. He counts the severed heads, 20 in total. That's definitely overkill. He remembers the subjugation request was only for 5 golems. Turning in all of them would raise eyebrows, so he decides to take only 5 heads back as proof. As he packs them up, he casually wonders what people even use them for. Finn starts thinking ahead. He's eager to climb the adventurer ranks, but if anyone discovers he used to be platinum, his effort to start fresh will mean nothing. He slings the bag over his shoulder and mutters aloud that if Noelia's watching, it'd be nice if she didn't say anything. Hidden in the nearby bushes, Noelia hears him and wonders if he's really trying to hide his identity. When she doesn't respond, Finn assumes silence means agreement. He's known she's been tailing him ever since they left the guild. He hoped to ditch her once they entered the forest, but she stuck to him the entire time. Then suddenly, her presence vanishes. Worried, Finn doubles back. He finds her cloak on the ground, drenched in acidic fluid. His concern deepens, and he pushes further into the woods until he finds her. Noelia is trapped, caught in the writhing vines of a plant-like man-eater. He draws his sword immediately, ready to cut her loose. She tries to warn him, more monsters are coming from behind, but he doesn't catch her meaning in time. The moment he turns, several monsters attack. He slashes them down quickly, but they start regenerating and latch onto his sword. Meanwhile, the vines around Noelia tighten, causing her to cry out in pain. Finn promises he'll be there in a second and tells her to hold on. He braces himself as the man-eater shoots a barrage of seed-like projectiles at him. He tanks the hits and pushes forward, slicing through the vines and finally freeing Noelia. Noelia thanks him, but Finn tells her to save it, they need to retreat now. He drops to one knee and tells her to climb onto his back and hold on tight. Embarrassed, Noelia refuses. She insists she can finish this herself, with magic. Finn nods, trusting her, and says he's counting on her. Noelia grips her staff and chants a spell, then unleashes a blazing fire lance at the enemy. The flames engulf the plant monsters, reducing them to ashes within seconds. Finn watches, amazed. Magic really is convenient, just as he expected. Noelia asks if it worked. Finn replies that it was perfect, but the moment he sees her tattered clothing from the battle, he blushes and turns away. Realizing her state, Noelia quickly covers herself and starts sobbing from embarrassment. Finn notices Noelia's clothes are still in tatters and thinks that if she stays like that, it's going to cause trouble. He offers her his cloak. Noelia accepts with a quiet thank you, explaining that her father would get furious if any man saw her bare skin. Once she's covered, Finn tells her the cloak conceals her well. She thanks him again. He asks if she's hurt, but before answering, Noelia casts a cleansing spell on herself. Finn watches, genuinely impressed, as she uses magic to wash away the acid from her skin. She tells him she's fine, the injury's no big deal, and the acid's gone. Finn says that's good and asks if she wants him to walk her back to the city. Noelia politely declines and says he can go back to his quests. Finn thinks to himself that she's hard to figure out, but deep down, she doesn't seem like a bad person. Still, he comments that as a platinum-ranked adventurer, she really shouldn't have let herself get caught. Noelia admits she was too focused on watching him and didn't pay attention to her surroundings, then realizes what she just said. Finn tells her he already knew she was watching him and asks why she's been following him at all. Noelia answers with a direct question of her own. She wants to know why someone with that much magic power isn't using it. With power like his, she says, it would make more sense to wipe out enemies using magic than to fight with a sword. But Finn calmly replies that he doesn't know how to use anything except a sword. That stuns Noelia. She thought everything he said back at the guild was just nonsense to hide his real strength. But Finn tells her he's never used magic before, and she's the first person he ever performed magic synchronization with. Noelia is shocked. She can't believe he holds that much magic power without having studied magic at all. Curious, Finn asks how magic works and how it's even activated. Noelia explains that magic is triggered by chanting an incantation. The core principle is visualization. If he can imagine the element and the effect he wants to create, he can influence the world around him. She adds that incantations act as tools to support that imagination and make invoking magic easier. Finn still doesn't fully understand what it means to use a chant to imagine something. To help him out, Noelia gives an example. To cast a fire arrow spell, he should chant "Become a hot burning arrow and penetrate my enemy." That kind of clear, focused sentence helps him picture exactly what the spell should do. Once he has the image in mind, he can use his magic to manifest it. Noelia tells Finn that instead of just explaining, it might be faster to demonstrate. She chants the incantation and casts the fire arrow spell. The attack shoots forward and strikes a nearby tree, blasting several large holes straight through the trunk. Afterward, she explains that memorizing both the incantation and the resulting effect is a common method for learning magic. Hearing that, Finn asks if he can do the same by saying the chant while visualizing the effect. Noelia answers that maybe he can. He has more than enough magic power, and she thinks he could invoke spells even without using a wand like hers. Finn steadies himself, thinking it's easier to grasp something by trying it firsthand. Noelia gets visibly excited. She tells him the fire arrow spell should be especially easy to imagine now that he's seen it. Watching her expression, Finn notes how serious she becomes when the topic is magic. He steps into an open area and decides it's fine to give it a shot. If it works, it could be useful for future quests. Finn starts reciting the incantation but unintentionally changes it. Instead of what Noelia showed him, he adds in new elements, imagining gigantic flames flying through the sky like an arrow. What comes out isn't a fire arrow. It's a massive fireball. Noelia watches in horror and tries to stop him, asking what exactly he's invoking. But it's too late. The spell launches and explodes violently in the distance, triggering a huge shockwave. Noelia is nearly thrown off her feet but manages to hold on to Finn. He's barely able to keep his balance himself. The explosion is so powerful that it's felt back in the frontier city. People there wonder if it was an earthquake. Finn stares at the scorched, smoking area in front of them and awkwardly asks if that wasn't a bit too large for a fire arrow. He glances at Noelia and asks if at least the shape was close. Still in shock, she tells him it wasn't anything like a fire arrow at all. Later, Finn returns to the guild to browse new quests. He mentions to Rebecca that he spent the previous day practicing magic with Noelia, but no matter how he tries, he just can't get the output right. He wonders aloud why adjusting the power is so difficult. That triggers something in Rebecca. She leans in close and quietly asks if he has any idea whether the mysterious explosion reported the day before was actually him and Noelia practicing. Finn flinches. He didn't realize people were referring to it as a mysterious explosion. He recalls the aftermath, how Noelia, brushing herself off, flat out told him that what he cast wasn't fire arrow. The power and range were totally off. According to her, it was closer to an advanced fire magic spell on the level of something like Megiddo explosion. Confused, Finn shows her exactly what he did. He tells her he used the chant she taught him and visualized the effect he saw. That's all it took to activate the magic. Noelia, still shaken, snaps that it was completely wrong. Finn insists he only misjudged the power, though he thinks the shape was kind of similar. Noelia, glaring, says there wasn't even a shape to begin with, and demands to know what that level of power even was. Finn admits he wants to know that too. Trying to rein things in, Noelia says she'll be ready to extinguish the flames this time and tells him to try again. She instructs him to imagine the flame as small as possible. Finn agrees and gives it another shot, but this time, nothing happens. The spell fails to activate. Noelia, observing, thinks he scaled the image down too much. So she suggests the opposite. Try making it as big as possible again. Later at the guild, Finn nervously asks Rebecca if he's somehow not allowed to practice magic. She reassures him that practicing isn't a problem but adds that it would be helpful to notify the Adventurers Guild in advance, especially when using anything on a large scale. Finn, confused, thinks he was only doing basic magic training. But Rebecca pulls out a document and shows him the penalty for unauthorized use of high-tier magic. The listed amount shocks him. Before things escalate, Noelia walks into the guild and steps in. She tells Rebecca that there's no need to pursue penalties. She'll cover the damage caused by Finn's magic herself. Then she hands over a letter from her father. Rebecca reads it and nods, saying she understands. She adds that the guild will wait for the guild master's decision before finalizing anything. Noelia thanks her for the consideration. Once that's done, Noelia turns to Finn and presents him with an elegant, high-quality sword. She says it's from her father's personal collection, though she slips up and admits she swiped it, quickly correcting herself to say it was originally given to her. She asks him to accept it as a token of gratitude. Finn stares at the sword, stunned by its quality. He quietly wonders if she really did swipe it. He tells her the blade is incredibly sharp, but still too much to accept as a reward. He apologizes and says he can't take it. Noelia asks if he dislikes the sword, but Finn says that's not the issue. He explains that he wants to one day purchase a sword he can entrust his life to, something earned with his own money. So, he'll accept the sentiment, but not the sword itself. Hearing that, Noelia looks troubled. She says that if he refuses her gratitude, it will disgrace her family's honor, especially after he saved her life. Thinking it over, Finn suddenly gets an idea. He asks if Noelia would be willing to become his magic practice instructor. Now that he knows he can use magic, he wants to learn how to control it properly. He admits he's spent his life with a sword and isn't confident with magic at all. After asking, Finn hesitates, thinking maybe it was too much to request that from someone like her, the daughter of a count and a platinum-ranked adventurer. But Noelia suddenly drops the sword, grabs his hand, and agrees wholeheartedly. She promises to teach him magic from the basics with full effort. Finn thanks her sincerely. Noelia then asks if he wants to start practicing again in the outskirts. Finn says he'll check with Rebecca first for permission. But Noelia smiles and says it's fine, since they won't be using large-scale magic anyway, though they should still wait for her. Watching her, Finn notes that while he once thought Noelia was cold, when she smiles like this, she just seems like a regular girl.
They return to the same field where his last spell turned the ground into ash. The burn marks are still there, a wide scar cut into the earth. Finn stares at it quietly, finally understanding what people mean when they say large-scale magic. Noelia watches his expression and tells him his power is unstable. His perception of magic is still off. Finn admits it. He's only ever lived by the sword. Magic, to him, has always felt like something far removed, something beyond reach. She says that's the problem. He overestimates it. Most people don't even have enough in them to activate a spell. The only reason his magic works is because of how much he has. And when it doesn't, it's because the image in his head isn't clear enough. So that's why it fails. Finn nods slowly, then asks if it'll stabilize once he understands it better. Noelia says it will. That's why she's here. She sets her wand down, steps forward, and takes his hands in hers. Finn blinks, caught off guard. It's the same position as before. He asks if this is another magic synchronization, and if she's going to faint again. She blushes, embarrassed, and says that only happened because she drew too much magic from him on her own. This time, it's just overlapping consciousness. Finn catches the shift in her tone but stays quiet. She tells him to chant the spell again. He does. Become a hot, burning arrow and penetrate my enemy. Then a voice answers inside his head. Noelia. She says the effect looks fine, but the size is too big again. He hears her clearly, not with his ears, but straight through his thoughts. She tells him she's inside his consciousness now, watching the magic he's forming in real time. Finn stands there, stunned. This is the first time magic has ever made sense. Noelia tells him to shrink the image more. Finn imagines a huge pool of flames and asks if that's small enough. Still holding his hands, Noelia sighs. Still too big. Just as she suspected, he imagines magic in extremes. She says she'll keep watching until he gets it right. All he has to do is focus and adjust. Finn narrows his concentration. The blazing image in his mind starts to shrink, bit by bit. Noelia quietly guides him as he fine-tunes the size. After a moment, she finally nods. This is it, the exact size needed to activate a proper fire arrow. Finn locks the image in his mind. Noelia lets go of his hands and steps back, telling him to try it now. He recites the chant one more time, and this time, A perfectly formed fire arrow shoots out with a clean burst of heat and speed. Finn lights up. Without thinking, he throws his arms around her and shouts that it worked. He asks if that was it, if that was really the proper fire arrow. Flushed red, Noelia nods, stumbling over her words. As his instructor, she's thrilled, but she awkwardly mutters that if he doesn't mind, maybe it's time to let her go now. Though, if he insists, she's fine with staying like this a bit longer. Realizing what he's doing, Finn instantly lets go, flustered. He remembers she's a noble's daughter and scolds himself for grabbing her without thinking. He apologizes in a rush, but Noelia waves it off. She says she gets it, finally controlling magic feels incredible. Then she hands him her wand. She tells him to try using it now. It's embedded with a magic stone that lowers the energy cost. Normally, magic is cast through wands like this. He asks if that's how it's usually done. He wonders aloud why he didn't need one earlier. Before she can answer, a giant ant monster bursts out from behind. Noelia reacts instantly. She spins and casts Fire Lance, hitting it dead on and turning it to ash. She tells him it only worked without a wand because he's a total anomaly. She can cast up to intermediate spells without one. But what he's doing isn't normal at all. More giant ants crawl out of the ground, swarming toward them. Noelia glances around and tells Finn it's a good time to test how well the wand works in actual combat. Finn nods, thinking back to the fire arrow he launched earlier. It probably aggravated a nest nearby. Noelia comments that there seem to be a lot of them, but it'll make for decent practice. Finn quickly estimates their numbers. Maybe 50 or 60. He raises the wand, focuses, and starts firing. One by one, fire arrows shoot out with sharp precision, each one striking a giant ant dead on. The spells land perfectly, cleanly burning through the enemy line. Excited, Finn shouts that magic really is amazing. But Noelia snaps at him. It's not the time to get distracted. Finn quickly agrees and keeps up the barrage. But in the middle of casting, he realizes picking them off one by one is too inefficient. There's just too many. He remembers what Noelia said about magic relying on imagination. So instead of single shots, he pictures a full spread, multiple arrows fired at once. He tweaks the chant on the fly, shaping the magic to fit the rhythm of the battle. Noelia catches the change and freezes. That isn't fire arrow anymore. She asks what he's doing. Finn tells her he's adjusting the spell to match what the fight needs, and if it backfires, he's counting on her to cover him. Noelia stares at him like he's insane, but before she can protest, he casts it. A swarm of flaming projectiles flies out in a sweeping arc. His new spell, Fire Arrow Barrage. The ants are wiped out in seconds, collapsing in smoking heaps across the field. Noelia stands speechless, watching the monsters fall without a fight. She mutters in disbelief. Those giant ants went down like nothing. Finn laughs, still fired up, and tells Noelia he just came up with that on the spot. He says she was right after all. Magic really is powered by imagination. But Noelia frowns and shoots him a glare. That's not what she meant. Confused, Finn asks if he did something wrong. Noelia sighs, then softens. It's not wrong, she says. In fact, it was incredible. She just didn't expect him to twist her words into something that wild. Watching those fire arrows split and curve through the air, each moving like it had a mind of its own, it was mesmerizing. She tells him it's more than just impressive. It's new. They'll need to report it to the Magic Research Institute. That spell didn't exist before today. Finn watches the scorched clearing and thinks again about how far beyond the sword this power goes. Alphine would never accept it. She's always seen magic as blasphemy. But maybe that makes Magic Swordsman the perfect cover. A new identity, both true and hidden. He turns to Noelia, suddenly serious. From now on, he says he'll go by that title, Magic Swordsman. And if that's who he is, then there's only one person he wants as his guide. He holds out his hand and asks her if the infinite mage Noelia can continue teaching him. Noelia pauses, startled. Then she reaches forward and takes his hand, cheeks slightly flushed. If he's fine with her clumsy teaching, then she'll gladly help for years to come, if he'll have her. Finn smirks and jokes that it sounds kind of like a marriage proposal. Noelia stammers, caught off guard, and Finn laughs, telling her he's counting on her. That night, Noelia returns home. Her maid greets her at the door, but Noelia walks right past without a word. Once in her room, she closes the door behind her and quietly pulls out the cloak Finn gave her during the monster attack. She clutches it close, her mind replaying every moment from the forest. The next morning, out in the woods near Huguenot, Noelia stands in front of Finn, back to instructor mode. Today, she says, they'll cover the fundamental types of magic. Finn lights up, eager to start. He asks her to explain. She nods and begins. There are 3 primary types: attack magic to damage enemies, enhancement magic to boost your own strength, and healing magic to restore wounds. Noelia explains that there are many branches of magic, but the main 3 are attack, support, and healing. Finn nods, taking it in. He asks if the spell they used before was considered attack magic. Noelia confirms. It's a simple spell that turns raw magic power into destructive force. But she warns him, any larger-scale version demands precise control. With his magic reserves, even a minor misstep could turn catastrophic. Next, she moves to support magic. She points to a spell in his book, the same one she used to clean off the acid. Finn lights up, asking if that's the one that wiped away the burn in an instant. Noelia confirms. It's a clean spell, one that alters the properties of matter. But it requires detailed knowledge of the target material. That's why she recommends familiarizing himself with all kinds of toxins and poisons. Finn says he wants to learn it someday. Noelia tells him she's sure he'll pick it up quickly. Finally, she moves on to healing magic. She pulls a small knife, nicks her finger, and casts a quick chant. The cut vanishes almost instantly, closed by a soft glow of magic. Noelia explains that healing magic works by accelerating the body's natural recovery process. But before she can finish, Finn grabs her hand. He scolds her, calling her reckless. Even if it's for demonstration, a girl shouldn't be hurting herself like that. Noelia nods, a little startled. Finn softens his grip and apologizes. Still, he frowns, clearly bothered. He hopes it doesn't leave a scar. Watching him, Noelia can't help but think how dependable he is, kind and strong in a way that feels real. But she quickly reins herself in. She made a promise to Susanna. She can't let herself get carried away. That memory flashes back. The night she held Finn's cloak in her arms, Susanna had barged into the room to help her change. Startled, Noelia scolded her for entering without knocking. Susanna explained that she had knocked, but Noelia didn't respond. She teased that her master had been restless ever since meeting that man again. Flustered, Noelia dropped the cloak and insisted it was all professional. He's her disciple. Of course they'd have magic lessons. But Susanna wasn't convinced. She warned Noelia that others wouldn't see it the same way. A noble's daughter spending time alone with a male commoner, even as a teacher, was bound to draw unwanted attention. Noelia quickly denies it, flustered. There's nothing like that between them. She's sure Finn doesn't see her that way. But Susanna just gives a smug smile. As expected, she says Noelia's fallen for him. Noelia snaps back, insisting she's wrong. But Susanna, now confident, declares she'll handle everything from here. She promises to lay the perfect groundwork. Then she turns and walks off, ignoring Noelia's protests. Left alone, Noelia grumbles under her breath. But just as she's about to shake it off, Finn's face appears in front of her. He asks if she's okay. She was just staring into space. Noelia jumps a little, then quickly composes herself. She says she's fine and suggests they wrap up the theory for now and test things out in practice. She asks what kind of magic he wants to try. Finn thinks it over, then says he wants to try enchanting his sword and using it in combat. Noelia immediately shoots the idea down. That kind of magic's extremely difficult. For now, she tells him to just observe. She picks up a pebble and casts a fire enchantment. The stone flickers with flame for a moment, then dims out and goes cold. She explains that even if you cast fire on a rock, it won't stay lit. Magic power disperses too easily. It's especially unstable with inorganic matter. Noelia adds that there are techniques to enchant objects, but they require special processes and ceremonies. It's not something that can be done in the middle of combat. Finn sighs, saying it makes sense. If anyone could do it easily, everyone would. But then Noelia mentions that if they ask her master, Linus, they might get a different answer. That catches Finn's interest immediately. He asks where this master is now. Noelia tells him Linus currently serves as the head of the magic research department in the royal capital. The moment he hears that, Finn's mood drops. He stiffens, thinking about Alphine. The capital's the last place he wants to be near. Noelia notices the change and asks if something's wrong. Finn quickly brushes it off, saying it's nothing. Then he shifts the topic, saying she's right, he should just focus on mastering basic attack magic for now. Noelia nods without pressing him further. Finn silently decides to keep his distance from the capital, at least for the time being. Meanwhile, in the capital, Alphine paces inside her residence. It's been 2 weeks, and there's still no trace of Finn. Biting her nails in frustration, she mutters to herself. She did hear a report. Someone matching his description was seen at the coach station heading to the frontier region. But she still can't believe he'd really leave her like that. Finn can't possibly survive out there without her support or connections. She remembers what others said, that he'll come crawling back after cooling his head, that she should have just been a little nicer to him. Grinding her teeth, she slashes a pillow open in frustration. Her eyes fall on the sword he left behind. She stares at it bitterly, thinking about the expensive equipment she gave him, the money, everything. Yet he still walked away like none of it mattered. Tears start to well up. Maybe leaving the sword behind really was his way of saying goodbye. Those swords were supposed to be proof of their promise, to survive together, to succeed as adventurers, to never part ways. She collapses to the floor, sobbing. Even after all they shared, he still disappeared from her life. A part of her starts to wonder if something deeper pushed him away. From outside, her butler Vigo calls out, reminding her she's scheduled to give a swordsmanship lecture at the palace. Alphine wipes her eyes, then tells him she'll be ready soon and orders him to prepare the carriage. Her eyes narrow as one particular face crosses her mind, someone she hopes she doesn't see at the palace. Later that day, at Hartford Royal Castle, Alphine knocks a knight backward with a single strike. His sword clatters across the training yard. He gasps, winded, and mutters that he didn't think a woman's attack could hit that hard. Alphine steps forward, calm and unfazed, and tells him he's trained well. Not many can last 10 rounds with her. The knight smiles politely, calling it generous of the sword saint to say that. But Alphine's expression tightens. She could have ended the match in a single strike. These pampered nobles just want to show off, not fight for real. Not a shred of grit in them. If it were Finn, he'd be clinging on through 100 rounds, puking and sobbing but still swinging. Suddenly, clapping echoes through the training ground. Jair, captain of the Royal Knights, steps in with a smug grin. He praises Alphine as the king's chosen sword saint and says it's an honor just to witness her technique. Alphine snaps back that flattery won't get him anywhere, but Jair cuts her off with a raised hand. He declares that today, she'll finally join them. With her talent, he says, mimicking her swordplay should be easy. Then he adds something that freezes her in place. He's heard her beloved Finn has abandoned her and run off from the capital. Alphine's eyes flash. In one motion, she draws her sword and presses the tip just inches from Jair's nose. The smugness drops from his face. She sheathes it just as fast and tells him that if he has time to waste on rumors, he should grab a blade and prove himself. Jair steps forward and grabs her wrist. He tells her he's only worried about her shriveled heart, starved for love and sinking in loneliness. Alphine tears her hand away without hesitation. She says Finn isn't gone. He's on a journey to grow stronger, to reach a level where he can stand beside her. And when that day comes, he'll return. Jair's smile fades. With a sigh, he says it's a shame, but if Alphine ever has any worries, she should feel free to lean on him. Then he kneels down and kisses her hand, calling her the proud sword of the kingdom and the sheath that holds his love. With that, he walks off, casually saying he'll see her later. Lovely sword saint, he calls over his shoulder. Alphine's blood boils. Nearby knights flinch as her glare cuts through the air. She snarls that training isn't over. They'll be doing a 1 versus 100 sparring session. Effective immediately. Everyone will draw their swords and attack her at once. The knights start offering excuses, trying to avoid the inevitable. But Alphine shuts them down cold. As their instructor, she warns, anyone who refuses will be reported directly to the king. They can take their chances with that if they like. Fuming, she tightens her grip on the hilt. At this rate, if Finn doesn't come back soon, she might just slaughter every one of these pampered nobles. Far away in the frontier city, Finn jolts awake, heart racing. He's drenched in sweat, breath short, haunted by a nightmare of Alphine. Stumbling to the washroom, he leans over the sink and vomits. The trauma's still there. As the cold water hits his face, he mutters to himself. He tells himself to get a grip, asks himself if he really left all that behind. Finn casts clear on himself, wiping away the sweat with a quick flick of magic. His face is instantly squeaky clean. Magic really is convenient. He remembers today's job, acting as Noelia's escort for a monster ecology survey, and rushes toward the city gate. He arrives out of breath. Noelia greets him with a warm good morning. Finn pants heavily, relieved he made it on time. Noelia assures him there's no need to rush. They've only just gathered. She tilts her head, a little worried, and asks if he's feeling all right. Finn waves it off. Just a bad dream, he says. Physically, he's fine. With that, Noelia brightens. She thanks him again for accepting the request and explains the plan. She's leading a monster ecological survey today, and she wants him by her side. They shake hands. Finn says he's looking forward to it, and Noelia promises to do her best. But even as they get ready to depart, Finn can't shake the feeling that something's off. The other escorts don't look like average guards. They're skilled, sharp-eyed, and serious. Then his eyes land on one man in particular, a knight clad in a heavy black mantle, radiating quiet pressure. Finn watches as the man approaches Noelia with a stern look, clearly about to say something. But before he can speak, Noelia grabs Finn by the arm and starts walking away, saying it's time to go. Thrown off, Finn stumbles after her, asking if he shouldn't at least say hello to the person he's supposed to escort. But Noelia doesn't slow down. She calmly says that man doesn't need an escort at all. The knight walks behind them, calling out to Noelia to wait. He hasn't finished talking, but she suddenly turns, frustrated, and calls him father. Finn nearly trips over his own feet. That intimidating knight is her dad. Noelia scolds him on the spot, asking if he forgot his promise to stay quiet during the survey. If he's not keeping it, then he can go back. Her father tries to argue, but she shuts it down immediately. If that's really her father, then he's the Lord of Huguenot Margrave Lloyd, and he's being completely pushed around by his own daughter. As the investigation continues, Finn feels increasingly awkward. Just yesterday, he launched all the investigation targets into the sky. He clearly doesn't know how to hold back. At this rate, he's only going to be a liability. Behind them, Lloyd struggles up the path, muttering that he must be getting old. These trails are rougher than he remembered. Finn offers to help, but Noelia brushes it off. Her father hates being helped, she says. He used to be a platinum-ranked adventurer, he'll manage somehow. She tells Finn to just leave him be. From the way she says it, Finn gets the sense the two of them don't exactly get along. Just then, Lloyd suddenly starts shouting at Finn, accusing him of flirting with his daughter. Noelia silences him on the spot with a spell, casting a mute field before he can make a scene. She tells him not to yell in a place like this, but it's already too late. Something's coming. From the bushes, rustling grows louder. A moment later, a beast bursts out, jaws wide, charging straight at Finn. He barely blocks the strike in time, then plants his feet and yells for everyone to guard Noelia and the Margrave. The escorts are stunned. It's a forest wolf. Noelia peeks from cover and tells Finn to dial down the power. They need some of the beasts alive for the ecological survey. He says he got it, though he's annoyed he only brought a standard blade. Trying to subdue these things with basic gear isn't ideal. He scans the battlefield. The others seem to be handling the smaller ones just fine. Looks like the one charging him is the boss. The wolf lunges again. Finn sidesteps and slices clean through its side, dropping it instantly. He mutters that the bigger they are, the easier they are to read, especially compared to Alfine's sword techniques. This was nothing. But then Noelia calls his name, sharp and urgent. Finn spins around. 2 more wolves are coming fast, and he's wide open. He manages to slash one, but the second's already mid-air, until a blast of magic crashes into it and sends it flying. Flames flash past, and Finn glances back. Of course, it's Noelia. As the wolves retreat in fear, he shouts a quick warning. She responds instantly, casting Sleep Cloud. A thick, misty spell spreads across the field, and one by one, the fleeing beasts collapse. Noelia calls out for the team to capture them while they're still unconscious. Later, as they trek back, Finn eyes his chipped sword and sighs. It's hanging in there, but barely. He mutters that it probably needs sharpening again. He'll need to buy something more reliable soon. From behind, Lloyd quietly takes note. That night, while Finn rests alone by the campfire, one of the knights approaches and settles beside him. He comments that Finn seems surprisingly comfortable in the wild. Finn looks up as the man introduces himself, Mice, captain of the Margrave's Knights. He offers a flask and pours a little booze between them. Mice says Noelia mentioned Finn's only been an adventurer for about a month. Finn goes with the usual story, saying he used to work escort jobs for merchants. In the back of his mind, he hopes that's enough to hold up. No way he can mention being platinum. Mice gives him a long look, then chuckles and says that makes sense. He's clearly used to life outdoors. Finn comments that they're pretty capable themselves. The knights he used to know could barely handle camp duty. Mice laughs and explains that most of them used to be platinum-class adventurers. Roughing it is second nature by now. Finn asks if the Margrave really hires commoners as knights. Mice nods and says Lloyd might be nobility now, but he started as an adventurer just like them. He doesn't put much stock in titles. Finn admits he had no idea. Mice says that's not surprising, most younger folks wouldn't know. Then his tone shifts. He says most of the adventurers who remembered those days died during the Great Invasion. The name hits Finn like a weight. The Great Invasion 20 years ago. A massive outbreak of abyss walkers surged out from the demonic forests, sweeping through the kingdom. Neither beast nor man, the monsters tore through towns. The scars left behind still run deep. Finn lost family in that calamity, though he was too young to remember. With the army and royal knights stretched thin, the nation turned to adventurers. They were the ones who held the line. That's why so few talk about it now. Finn quietly asks if Mice fought too. Mice nods. He was part of Lloyd and Florina's party back then. Finn asks who Florina is. Mice answers with a small smile, that's Noelia's mother. She was the daughter of the Enestrosa family, but instead of staying in the capital, she left home and made a name for herself as a magician on the frontier. He trails off before continuing. Finn catches the hesitation and asks if something happened to her. Mice nods. After Noelia was born, Lloyd was officially adopted into the Enestrosa family. They raised Noelia in the relative safety of the capital. But despite Lloyd's protests, Florina joined the frontline assault team not long after childbirth, determined to fight for their survival. She never came back. Hearing that, Finn lowers his gaze. So Noelia lost her mother in the Great Invasion too. Just like him, he used to wonder why a noble's daughter would be so obsessed with magic. But now he gets it. Her roots aren't that different from his. He quietly thinks that if her mother was anything like Noelia, she must have been a beautiful person. And one day, Noelia will grow up to be just as lovely. Mice nods. He says Noelia inherited everything from her energy, her drive. Even her fiery back and forth with Lloyd before the expedition reminded him of Florina. If Florina were still alive, Finn says, their family might have turned out a little less complicated. Mice chuckles, saying it's a shame. They'd get along fine if they were just a little more honest with each other. That's when it hits Finn. He's been listening this whole time, but only now realizes something. He asks how old Noelia is. Mice tells him she was born right before the Great Invasion ended. She's turning 20 this year. She's the same age as him. He stammers out a surprised laugh as Mice chuckles, saying it makes sense. Noelia's baby face throws people off. Finn awkwardly scratches his head. He's definitely been treating her like a kid this whole time. Mice leans back and says Finn's got a calm air about him too, despite looking young. Maybe it came from life as a merchant escort. Finn shrugs, saying it's just always felt normal. Mice calls him modest, then adds that Lloyd was adopted into his wife's family too. Young people with drive tend to gather around him. Before he can finish, Lloyd appears behind them without a sound. Finn stiffens up on instinct. He hasn't done anything wrong, but the pressure from the man is overwhelming. Lloyd casually holds out a sword. He tells Finn to use it during the investigation, says it doesn't matter if it breaks. That worn-out blade of his isn't worthy of a real swordsman. Even if it means going into debt, a man needs a sword that matches his strength. Finn takes the sword and slowly unsheathes it. The gleam of the blade makes his eyes widen. It looks far too valuable. Even Mice raises an eyebrow at the sight of it. Finn quickly lowers the sword and turns to Lloyd, saying he appreciates the gesture, but he can't accept something so expensive. He bows politely and offers it back, insisting he wouldn't be able to compensate if something happened to it. Lloyd waves him off. He tells Finn to take it. When he said he didn't mind if it broke, he meant it. There's no compensation required. Then Lloyd settles down beside the fire and adds that, while he's got plenty of complaints about Noelia, he respects capable adventurers, and to someone like Finn, he wants to be generous. Mice laughs and says Lloyd's more fired up than usual about this. That sword, he explains, is the kind of weapon usually reserved for knights. If he accepts this, they might try to officially recruit him. If anyone starts digging into his identity, they'll realize he's using a fake name. If that happens, there's no doubt Alphine will find him. Lloyd notices his hesitation and asks if he's dissatisfied, mentioning that the blade once belonged to him. Finn scrambles for a response, trying to find a way to decline without offending anyone. But then Noelia shows up. She says her father can be pretty stubborn, so it might be best to just accept it. Now even she's pushing for it. Lloyd nods firmly. That settles it. Noelia tells Finn he can just treat the sword like something he bought himself. It's a blade from the Enestrosa family. After all, she guarantees its quality. If he doesn't need it later, he can just give it back to her and she'll toss it right at her father. That last part makes Finn a little uneasy. Sure enough, Lloyd shouts at her. But before he gets more than a few words out, Noelia casts a silence spell. His lips keep moving, but not a sound escapes. She calmly tells him he's being way too loud for an outdoor camp. Finn glances over and starts to feel a little sorry for the man. He turns to Lloyd and says, awkwardly, that since he doesn't have a backup blade, he'll go ahead and borrow the sword for the investigation. Lloyd struggles, straining his jaw to force the magic off. He finally breaks free, only to immediately start yelling again. And again, Noelia hits him with silence. That wraps up the second day of the investigation. Alright, that's all for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to drop a comment down below. If you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. It's been a pleasure, and I'll catch you all in the next video.